Hello, everyone. I'm Mary Kwiatkowski, and I am back again with another episode of the brand new NBC reality TV show, Destination X. Things were getting ominous this episode, and to break down the fifth episode of the show, I'm joined not by my normal co-host, but by my previous co-host for Extracted. So, Chappelle, thank you so much for joining the studio while Sasha's off gallivanting around.
Yeah, that's the thing. Sasha is traveling the world, learning where all these destinations is, and am watching TV, hoping to catch some of the references on random TV shows and in music and all kinds of things. Because I am not traveling like Sasha, but I am happy to be here. I took off my goggles. I thought this was the snake. It's fine. This works too.
Yeah, a little bit different. But you've done the gambit recently from obviously some survival shows, you cover
Mm-hmm.
strategy shows, you cover some wacky stuff. Have you ever covered a travel show exactly? Did you do jet
No.
lag too? No? Okay.
No. Sasha is a world traveler. I've traveled a little bit. I will say that. I'm going to be kind to myself. And I've been a few places. So watching Destination X is fun because I've heard of a lot of the places they've been. These are not the places that I typically go, or if I did go, it was because my airplane had to stop there as a way to get to the other place that I was going, the far less interesting, boring party place that I'm going. So I am actually not the worst at this kind of thing, but no, this is definitely my first time doing this, and I'm very excited to do it with you. We haven't done a podcast since Extracted, right? So this is fun. Or have we?
You know, today is not the day to ask me. I pulled an all-nighter, rolled right into this. I rolled straight from recording an episode of The Ultimatum into
Mm-hmm.
working all night into this. So
Yeah.
it may or may not be 24 hours since that last podcast, but I have not left this room pretty much. So
I'm just happy to be here.
I have
Happy to be
no
able to tag in
idea.
for Sasha, but happy to be back talking to you. This is gonna be fun.
Yes, yes. I know that I'm supposed to be the one to keep things moving on these podcasts, but
Mhm.
we'll see what happens today.
Okay, I
Sorry,
have some thoughts,
everyone.
so I'm ready.
Yeah, but even while Sasha is away, that can't stop me from saying of course, our opening tag. You can all find our coverage at weknowdestinationx.com, and of course, make sure to check out the Destination Exit Press we've been doing. Look, if you're not normally one for Exit Press, I gotta say, you gotta listen to these. They have been so fun so far. I don't Someone handed me the keys to do Exit Press, and I've decided just to have fun conversations with the people. So there's definitely questions about the show. We've gotten a lot of behind the scenes interesting information because they have to cut a lot for time on these type of shows. Not everything gets 90 minutes nowadays. But the cast is great. We talked with Ty last week, so definitely check that one out. And I'm really excited to be talking to Kim this week. Oh
Ugh.
boy, do I have a lot of questions. Kim seems like a great person
I'm
to
so
talk
sad
to.
that you have to talk about Kim though, because Kim, I love her. Are you not like? How do you
Yeah.
not love Kim?
I
She
mean,
was
I've
so
loved
fun.
everyone who's gotten off so far. So
Right.
it's been really fun to talk to them. But yeah, I wish they were on our screen a little longer. But that is like the one benefit of doing exit interviews is I get to then talk to people
Mhm.
and find out all the information. So anyway, but yeah, make sure you check everything out and leave us a rating and review for Destination X coverage. All right, Chappelle, let me ask you first, big picture. So you've been watching the show, you've been listening
Mhm.
to the coverage. What are your thoughts on the format?
I think y'all bring up a lot of good points about, how we spend a lot of time on the bus or in this episode on the train. And so we do miss a lot of the sights, but there's only so much that they can show us without being dead giveaways. Like one
Mm-hmm.
of the clues we saw one time when they were in the mountains and we look up and we just see the flag. It's like, okay, well, that's pretty straightforward. So, I think it's hard. I think this is a very hard show to pull off, but I do enjoy the idea that we can play along. Even though sometimes the clues that Jeffrey D. Morgan gives us are a little, spot on. It's like if you're playing along and you're listening to his point of view or from his clues, it's probably easier to find out rather than like having the information that they have. And they have very limited compared to us. So I've been enjoying it. I like playing along as well. And it's really hard, Mary, for me not to Google the answer and not to say like, where are you? But sometimes, when you have a clue and you kind of
Mm-hmm.
know what you're thinking the clue is like, no, that clue leads to something. I can't think of the name of that, but I have to fight that every week because even this episode specifically, I was knocking on the door of this location the entire episode, and by the end, I figured it out. But I knew the answer after his first clue. I was like, wait a minute, I know this. I've read the Grimm brothers. I know this. Only to find out by the end that I was correct. But it took a long time for me to get there, and I wish that there was a way I could kind of like dodge some of those more obvious
Yeah.
to the ones that they have.
Well, here's me coming in like a big giant dum dum this week because Sasha and I had both guessed Berlin last time, and that was pretty much purely from looking at the map and guessing like what their trajectory would be. So we both figured they'd probably go to Germany. Here's my problem. Every clue that we got this episode, Grimm Brothers, fairy tales, Black Forest, the other names of the cities that they had passed
Oktoberfest,
through,
beer,
Oktoberfest, guess what that tells me? Germany.
Germany.
I
Yeah.
have no clue. I don't know how we were supposed to get to Munich. Even at the end when Jeffrey's like, and did you check that I was making these clues about, the Grimm brothers and fairy tales? I'm like, yeah, that tells me Germany. Because I don't know enough about Munich to know why these things correlated to there. Literally, the only thing that I think anyone could have gotten was that when Janae is like, oh, Heidi Klum, she's from Munich, which I don't even know if that was fact checked. I'll check that. But
I didn't check it.
but if you didn't know that, tell me how is this supposed to point to Munich in general? Am I just supposed to know that they celebrate Oktoberfest in Munich? I just figured that was a
I think so. I think that's supposed to be a big thing. Well, here's the thing. I've been to Munich before, but I was only in the airport. And so I actually like, you know how you have like a layover. Matter of fact, that's a lie. I went to Frankfurt before or whatever, but I had a layover. And so for me, it was like, okay, we're in Germany, and we had kind of already once, when we'll talk about it on the train, they rule out Frankfurt as one of their clues, is like where they're passing through. So for me, I could only name like 3 or 4 cities in Germany anyway. So once I ruled out Frankfurt, I knew it was either Munich or Hamburg. And then they started naming all these other places. I'm like, oh yeah, it's not there either. So when it came down to Munich or Hamburg, I was like, I think it's Munich. It makes sense with the Brothers Grimm. And so that's where I landed on it. But like I said, through most of the episode, I was like, what is the name of this place? It's like in the back of my head. I'm like, it's not Frankfurt, or maybe it is Frankfurt. It's not Frankfurt. Maybe it is Frankfurt. But when they got the clues on the train, they said like, all right, we're passing through Frankfurt, basically. I think even Peter says at one point, like, we're moving in the opposite direction. We thought we were going that way, and we're going basically northwest. Then that's when I realized, okay, it can't be that. I only have a couple more cities to work with. Mary, you talked about it before. They use these bigger cities, which is very beneficial to us, dumb Americans, famously have a tough time finding the United States on a map if you go back far enough. But for us, you kind of have to go with these big landmark cities in these big moments, Oktoberfest, and these fairy tales, things that just say Munich, Munich, Munich to the average American. So that's how I landed on it.
Yeah. So okay, I've just done some research here. And Heidi Klum is not from Munich, so I don't know. She's from like northwest of Frankfurt, so don't know that. Maybe she lived in Munich at some point. And the Brothers Grimm, there's like a fairy tale route that you can take in Germany. It's like all throughout Germany. Oktoberfest does seem to be held annually in Munich, so that does appear to be the biggest clue. And I think the Brothers Grimm fairy tale route kind of goes, it's sort of like where the train was taking them down there. So maybe that would like hint toward it.
Yeah.
My point is, I still don't see how I would have gotten Munich. But again, I know very little about geography in general. Why I enjoy travel, but I'm not great at the geography portion. This is really where Sasha comes in with her knowledge. She'd be telling me. So please let me know in the chat, in the comments. Please let me know how I was supposed to get Munich out of this. I would really appreciate that. Because some of the clues from the previous episodes that people have left us in the chat has been really helpful. Yeah. So other than this destination, though, it definitely does still seem like, even including this one, we are hitting obviously big cities. So didn't go to Berlin, but I feel like, the average American, if they were going to list off 4 or 5 German cities, is probably going to say Munich. So you can at least narrow it down that way. Chappelle, what do you think of Peter and Janae being on this cast so far?
At first I was kind of questioning why, like why specifically those two people. I love Janae, love her. And I think there's a lot of, a lot of Peacock synergy here by having Janae and Peter on, considering they were on some of the bigger shows on the network. So maybe that's what it is. But yeah, seeing Janae, who I think she said she was a military brat, that's fun. She's traveled a little bit. And then Peter, who is a pilot, who has like just general navigation sense. This idea that he's basically tracking the sun throughout the entire time. That's great. That's perfect. But I also like that. I think because they're reality TV people, they are more locked into the game of this. And we'll see that they're playing probably like a second level of strategy to many of the people in the game, them having this like alliance with Rick. So there's a lot going on. I'm thinking they're bringing a lot to the table. I do hate that we lost Josh Martinez, because I do think that would be an added foil if he was able to stick around long enough. But right now, it does feel like it's the reality stars versus everybody else.
Yeah, it definitely does. And Peter in particular, but also Janae in different ways, have really come out of the gate being like, oh, this is a game. We're going to strategize. We're going to play. I think Janae has been doing a really good job socially and a lot of her maneuvering. And then Peter is being much more out front, like just saying it like it is, calling it out. And I kind of think from if I was him and assuming that people are going to know who he is, even if it's just from The Bachelor, which is not, a social strategy game. Well, or maybe it is, depending on who you
Maybe it
ask,
is. Yeah.
that I think he still figures people are going to look at me like a threat. And so I might as well just come out of the gate and say it. Yeah, I'm playing the game, whatever. I'm going to call it out. Janae, on the other hand, I think has been doing a really good job kind of like softening her play. She's being very sweet and very outwardly nice, which I think is really helpful. She's also hilarious. I loved her commentary about like if this was a horror film, we've got the guy who's trying to be a hero, the ditzy couple, the girl who's too smart. That was very funny.
And then Ty. Yeah. And then Ty on fourth
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was funny. But they also have both immediately teamed up with Rick here, which I do think is kind of like we've seen this a lot recently. You have some returning player, quote unquote, celebrity types on a show, and there's always at least one person who's like, I just want to team up with them. That's my goal here. And that's really Rick. But Rick has also benefited this by also being very strategic and just hadn't had a chance up until this point to really have an alliance to work with. So, yeah. What are your thoughts on Rick?
I like Rick. I'm glad that he's kind of got his legs under him now, because it seemed like in the first episode, he was really on the wrong side of Josh. Josh basically says like, don't trust Rick. And so I was thinking, oh God, he's down for the count. But getting these people who basically weren't there day one, it kind of gets like a blank slate with them, and he's able to work with them. So he's playing both sides. Rick, and this alliance with the reality people is going to benefit him a lot, because I think people are starting to realize that Rick is pretty decent, like at the game. Like they're starting to point out the weaker links, Shane. But they're identifying that Rick is definitely not one of those weaker links, especially now that he has his alliance. Now, the thing about the alliance is that it's not covert at all, because Kim overhears them. They're on a boat. They're on a train, on a bus that's this big. I don't think there's any strategizing that everybody can't see.
Yeah, it has been pretty funny seeing people just like get up and walk over. And that's what I really actually appreciated about Peter, particularly in this episode, is he's just like, why be coy about it? I'm just going to stand up, immediately walk over to my alliance member. We all know what it is. And speaking of alliances, we've got the Showmance with Shane and Allie. What are your thoughts on the two of them and their dynamic?
Ty goes out saying Allie isn't a girl's girl, and I know that you and Sasha were very excited about, the prospect of maybe there will be a women's alliance here. But once again,
never. It never happened.
Derailed by a Showmance. So once again, we can't have anything nice here. So Allie and Shane, what a easy way to put a target on your back. Like from people who watch a lot of reality TV, it's one thing to have a showmance, but to be so blatantly in a showmance in front of everybody. They're laying all over each other, Mary. Any chance you get a chance to split them up, you just have to take it. Because why wouldn't you? For people like Biggie, I guess that's a good thing to be working alongside them. But if you're not, then how are you not always trying to separate them, always trying to draw a wedge between them because they're always going to pick each other over you. So I think it's very interesting. I just don't think it's the best gameplay.
Yeah, it's not the best gameplay. But at least now, since there are other alliances, it does just feel more like, okay, we're all being out in the open. I thought it was pretty terrible when they were the only obvious
Hmm.
alliance happening. And yeah, at this point, I feel like hopefully everyone realizes kind of where Allie's going to be in terms of aligning with Shane and always going to him first. What's funny is that the third person in the alliance, Biggie, um, we've seen times where Biggie seems to be, or Shane seems to be closer to Biggie than Allie anyway. So I'm not even really sure how Allie is benefiting from this. I see how Shane is benefiting from it. I guess she benefited a little bit from getting some of the answers today after the challenge. So I guess that helps. But I feel like Biggie really is the one in the best spot out of the three of them.
See, the thing about a showmance is that showmans get stronger and stronger and stronger the longer you leave them around, and they just kind of fester like a wound.
Mm-hmm.
Biggie's relationship with Shane is not going to get any stronger. They're like they're bro. That's a bromance. It's there, but that's about it. The showmance can lead to way more, and so when you're in that bro spot, you have to be concerned that maybe the showmance is going to offer more to Shane than it would to Biggie long term. So right now, yeah, you have a little added protection, you have a little extra assistance. It could be worse, Like I think the showman could go if he's like standing behind them, as like he's using them as a shield. But I don't know. I think it's very interesting. I would say that he would be willing to go to bat with two other people who are going to pick each other over him. But like you said, we've seen Shane pick him over her before, so maybe he's banking on that long term.
Yeah, maybe he is. I mean, I see what you're saying, but I guess the other thought is that showmances could have a falling out point. They
Hmm.
can get stronger, or they can have something strike them. Um, the person who I am most excited to talk about for this episode, though, is my girl Mac, who finally had a
Mac.
little bit more of an episode. Finally, after being so quiet for so long. I think the main thing I'm seeing from Mac is at every single one of these challenges, Mac seems to instantly clock a lot of the clues, and it really, really feels like she's um, one of the more studied people on this show in terms of geography.
Yeah, I think she said she bust around Europe for a while. So she's been in this area. She's navigated it on her own. That's definitely not the same as me just like landing in a random city and then going to the hotel, and then going to the few locations. Like if she's on a bus or on a train, then she's actually looked at some of these signs, been through some of these cities. So she's seen a lot. I think you're right though. It's been so quiet for Mac, despite the first episode, me thinking that she was going to be one of, if not the star of the season. I think she was done a disservice by all the reality TV personalities they brought in, because Josh Martinez and now these two, I think, are really drawing attention away from people like Mac, who when they're in a challenge they shine. Mac comes in and she was carrying the team in a lot of ways throughout this episode, and she does well in her like little elimination challenge, the thing before the map too, and she ends up getting her mirror. So Mac's very savvy, and I wonder how long it takes before the players realize they need to take her out.
Yeah, and from my conversation with Ty from last week, she did say that Mac had been traveling like literally days before this
Mm-hmm.
started. So, definitely very well traveled. I think Mac is kind of like, she's interesting because she doesn't hide how intelligent she is when it comes to these kind of things, and she doesn't really hide how strategic she is, but she has not been in a super public out and out alliance in the way that some other people have. So I wonder if she comes across less threatening for that reason. I think at this point we've kind of got Allie and Shane and Biggie versus Janae and Peter and Rick, and Mac can kind of chill in the middle for a little bit. So this might actually be another good spot for Mac, unless they all just decide to throw her under the bus. as it were.
Yeah, she's hiding behind the showman. She talks about Kim in this episode being a lone wolf, but she's pretty close to that too. But it
Mhm.
does look like she's maybe aligned with the showman's a little bit more. Mac is beneficial if you're on Mac's team because Mac knows a lot of things, but Mac is also a big threat because how are you going to get Mac out? You know, a lot of these people will see they're not getting reliable information from everybody else. Kim
Right.
will go in this round because Kim doesn't have an ally to tell her that we already went through Frankfurt, so this can't be Frankfurt. Like that is the one piece of the puzzle she was missing. Because had she known that, she could eliminate that and do like I did and be like, well, the only other city I know is Munich, right? Well, Mac didn't. Mac is on the team where she gets that information, but she also wouldn't need it necessarily from everybody else. She seems like she can figure this stuff out on her own, and so she's going to be tougher to remove from the game, unlike somebody like Shane or even as Kim was very easily removed this round.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. So, speaking of this round, we start off with our first challenge, our country challenge. I don't even think you need anything about the challenge. I feel like I would have walked off that bus and been like, "Oh, we're in Germany."
Yeah,
That's what
like
it felt like.
this feels very German outside. Yeah, like
Max
anyway.
sees the train and says there's like German writing on the side, which does not necessarily mean it has to be German, but it's a pretty good bet.
Yeah, and I think the trains were also a clue as well. I think at the
Mhm.
end, Jeffrey Dean Morgan talks about like, oh, well, did you hear about the train hopping? And I'm guessing, what is it? Munich Central Station is the main train station in Munich, which I would have just guessed because it just sounds like a train station in Munich. But I guess it's like a big deal. It's like that important or something. Yeah, I guess it's a really big deal. And so people were supposed to pick up as like once you heard about Munich Central Station, or once you heard that we were on the trains, you saw the German writing on the train, that was supposed to be one of the clues to kind of steer you toward Munich.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. So this was kind of an interesting challenge. They get on a train, once again, another vehicle with a whole bunch of blacked out windows so that they can't see where they're going. Um and they're going to split into two groups. Jeff, they're trying to be sneaky with their whole everyone pair up and pick a number. Okay, now those are the new teams. Like, what was the point of this?
Yeah. I think you have to figure out a way to separate these people because they're so like physically and emotionally they're getting so close. You know, it's like they know who they're going to work with. Like who would have guessed that Ali and Shane want to be on the same team? Like shocker, you know. And
Yeah.
so you have to figure out a way to break them up. And I maybe like a schoolyard pick, but even that probably would have led to the teams, you know, falling in line. You know, you're going to pick your allies,
If
and
it was a
so
schoolyard pick, it would have been the exact same team except swap Rick and Allie.
yeah,
It
basically.
would have been the OGs and then the other team is the newcomers Rick and Kim. Like
Exactly.
100%.
Yeah. And so that's what I'm like. I guess they're just trying to figure out ways to spice this up because we see very quickly people 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. It breaks down and you get half the showmans, you know, with Biggie and Shane on one side, and then you get Allie on the other side, away from her natural allies. Oh, she's over there with the reality people, and that's good for them. Well, it's good for her, but it's bad for them. I don't know why they don't flag this immediately as like, hey, she's going to go back and tell Shane everything we're going to talk about.
Yeah, and I guess that's kind of just the plan that Peter comes up with is he's like, well, we're probably not going to win, and if we do get some right, the only person who's really going to be able to, gain any information, because there's all these red herrings. So the idea is that they're going to match up items from suitcases with some cities, and then they will be, and there's 9 of them, and then they're going to go ring a bell and be told how many they got correct, and then they're going to be told a city, and it may or may not be a red herring. Now, I don't know if it was really stated like what the correlation between how many you got correct versus what the red herring is. I presume like if you got 9 out of 9 right, then you would definitely not get a red herring. And if you got, like in their case, they get 7 out of 9 right, is that saying like there are 7 correct options and 2 red herrings and we'll just like you're playing the odds? I'm not really sure how they figure that.
No, they didn't even get the grand prize. Look through the like glass windows at the scenery, you know,
Y-
because and they won both rounds. I thought, well, we won both rounds, we should get something.
Right. Yeah, so I guess they just assume that the two cities they find out, this is Mac, Biggie, Rick, and Shane. They find out Frankfurt and Stuttgart, and they're assuming those are both correct, and that they're gonna fact check them with the other team. Peter immediately is like, "Well, let's just throw this entire challenge, and then we will know that the answers we are given are red herrings. So we will know that we're not in Dortmund or Hanover." Um, and that's what they do. The flaw in this plan is, okay, this is great, except for the fact that Allie's just gonna tell the other team everything.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And Peter finally, it's like Peter comes up with this brilliant plan in his mind. And then at the end of it, he goes, "Wait, you're not just going to go tell them, are you?" And he goes, "Huh?" He's like, "Are you planning on telling them?" She's like, "Are you telling me not to tell them?" He goes, "Yes, I would
Yeah.
like that." And she's like, "I don't know if I can do that." It's like, duh, what did you think she was going to do? Like the same way Rick is
Yeah.
playing both sides. Why would she not essentially play both sides? I think the plan to throw this was a little too cute, Mary, because you
Well,
didn't have to.
especially because Kim is like in her own world. She finds out one of the answers, and then she's like, "Yeah, I'm just not going to tell you guys that." So
Right.
Peter and who's the other person there? Janae. They know one red herring. That is all they know.
Mm-hmm.
And they can fact check that with Rick. And they're like, yeah, this is so brilliant on us because we've got Rick on the other team. We're gonna fact check it with him. And then they get mad at Allie for doing the same thing. Or I don't know if
Mm-hmm.
mad's the right word. I mean, I think Peter's playing the game and he's trying to like
Mm-hmm.
see if he can get her not to do it. But it is a bit ridiculous when it's like, well, you're doing the same thing. Come on.
Right. They should just try to win, because if you try to
Yeah.
win, you might, like, if you actually win and you get this grand prize, you get the clue that is probably like invaluable to anybody. Don't get me wrong, she will run it back to the other side, but I mean, at least this way you will see everything. Rick is going to tell you all the red herrings on the other side. If you are to beat them, Rick is going to tell you what the wrong answers are. That's the
Right.
whole point of having people on both sides. So it's not like you didn't have to throw this, and I think it was too cute because now you're going to have the stigma of the guy who throws the challenge to do a sneaky thing. Allie's going to go back and talk to Shane and them, and they're all like, "Oh, that's the game we're playing, Peter." It's like, had you just tried to win, you would have, the outcome would have been the same. You still would have gotten both sides of the information, but you wouldn't look so schemy and game body in front of these people who are clearly not wired like that.
And for considering the fact that so much of the last episode was about, oh, Ty like told one lie and now we can't trust her. I think somehow it's the difference between telling a lie that like Ty did for kind of no reason that didn't really have any game benefit versus Peter just being like, no, I'm playing a game. And he's like very outwardly saying, I'm going to lie. It's a game. I'm going to do what's best for me. I think it is. I think they're both ones where Allie is, not trusting, but it's like, it's a little bit of a different, I don't know. He's trying to put it out there differently, I guess. But
Mhm.
I completely agree with you. I think it was too cute and it was very public. The thing I did like about it is to see that people are trying to game it and are or at least that he's trying to come up with some strategy. It does remind me a lot of did you ever watch like the season of Amazing Race that Boston Rob was on back in the
No,
day? Okay.
no, but I know you are well versed in all of Boston Rob's
Yes.
lore.
Boston Rob was kind of known as being one of the first people to try to really like gamify and add strategy into the Amazing Race. Up until that point, it was mostly just going around, doing the challenges, trying to get there first, whatever. And Boston Rob comes in and he's like, but what if I paid the bus driver to only open one door? What if and that kind of
Mhm.
thing. And so I think that Peter's kind of trying to do a similar thing here, looking at the games and being like, but what if we play this game in a certain way that's like against the rules of the game and we're not going to play it straightforward to try and get something else out of it. So I appreciate that that is happening. I just don't think it ended up actually being a great a great outcome for it. And really the only reason anyone is safe in this game right now is because Kim is so on an island that she just doesn't get any information.
I have so many questions about that alone. How come Kim doesn't have an alliance? You would think with the reality people here, like, I don't know if she's just like pretty anti the fact that they just came in. She seems like she has a good working relationship with Rick. Immediately she's like, Rick, you and I pair up. That was like they paired up before. So I think maybe they work well together. But Rick's not running any information back to Kim. And like I said, had she got the red herring, the Frankfurt clue, had she learned that from anybody, she would have known, oh, wait, weird. No, I mean, that wasn't the red hair. That was a real clue. But had she learned the real clue that Frankfurt was one of the towns they were passing through, that would ultimately ended up being her guess at the map ceremony. You can't go through Frankfurt and still be in Frankfurt, and so I think she would have known, hey, that's not it, but nobody gave her the information. I was like, that would have, I'm telling you, Frankfurt literally eliminates 1/3 of the choices for me when I'm trying to guess cities in Germany. And so I would have just landed on Munich by default. I just feel like I don't understand how she's ended up so far out of the loop where both sides don't want to include her in anything.
Yeah, it's interesting because I don't know if maybe we just don't see it, but she thinks she's in alliance with someone else, Mac or somebody. But I would have thought coming into this, you see, okay, there's some new people. Do what Rick did. Rick jumped at, oh, there's new people in the game. I'm going to go align with them. You're not in the Allie, Shane, Biggie alliance. You know that you're at the very least not the first several people in that alliance. You're not high on that alliance. So I would take any chance to get some more allies here, and I'll definitely have to ask Kim that when I talk to her, because very confused about what exactly her game plan was, unless she just didn't care about being in the alliances and figured she'd lone wolf it.
No, that's a bad decision. I hope you ask her, because maybe she just personally doesn't like Peter and Janae, and just doesn't feel like helping them. Like, I just don't want to work with you. And the people she wants to work with clearly don't feel like looping her in on anything. I think maybe the connective tissue she would have is Rick, because Rick has most of the information, but that seemingly didn't work out for her. Somebody at this point, somebody should have come to her and said that, Frankfurt is off the table, and she would have had a little bit more information. But yeah, her kind of like, I won't say like, just like kind of proudly talking about how like, oh no, I don't share information and I'm a lone wolf. And Max says she admires that, but that's why she's out of the game. She didn't have anybody to fact check alongside. You have to be able to run this past your allies, because you might know a thing, but they might know the other thing that you need to know. And she didn't have another person that she could trust, I guess, to talk to about it.
And also, not just from Kim's side, from everyone else's side, why are you not trying to recruit Kim? You need all the numbers you can get. And considering the fact that we even see Mac say that she wants to be taking out the threats, if you don't think Kim is a threat, you need to be then helping her to, especially Mac, you're in an instance right now where you're not going into the map room. So try to give Kim some clues if you have any. And it just didn't seem like that happened. So after this first challenge is when we get our kind of big showdown that leads off the title of the episode, Moral Compass, where Peter is asking Allie, are you going to go tell Shane everything that we just did and our plan and how we threw the challenge, etc.? And she's kind of like, I don't know. Did you want me to tell them or not tell him? And he's basically saying, well, whether or not you withhold information or tell him a lie or whatever, it's all kind of the same things. It's a game. You don't have to have a moral compass in this. And she argues the opposite from that. And the reason this really blows up is because of our second challenge here. So, second challenge, we get out. Now, again, this is me from a American has not been to Germany perspective. We pop out and we're in the forest, and I go, Black Forest has to be. Germany's got one forest, right? It's the Black Forest. And I know this because while I have not traveled extensively out of the country, I have traveled a lot at a little place called Busch Gardens, Williamsburg, which is a theme park that is set up to look like a lot of the different European countries. There's a Germany section, and there's a ride that goes through the Black Forest. So, you know what? I see a forest, and I know at least that much.
I think that's one of the good things about the show, though, is that like it is for the average American sitting at home watching this from their couch who probably hasn't gone to all these places and can say, well, like Sasha, a lot of times, she's been to a ton of places. She's probably in India right now, but she has watched a lot of Amazing Race as well. So she'll be able to tie those into the things that she's seen on TV. Obviously, they're going to make a lot of literary references in this one. And then, like you said, sometimes you go to places that have exhibits and different things that are kind of like public knowledge. I think that right now the show is like travel for dummies, and we're the dummies. But I think that by the end, they could potentially get a lot harder. And so I wonder if they're going to turn it up a little bit because, yeah, the forest, Black Forest, I was like, yeah, Germany. But to me, it didn't say Munich, it said Germany, you know? So it's like, that got me almost there. But having to narrow it down to a city does like add a little extra flair to the show.
Yeah, exactly. So they get there. We've got a cabin. We've got Red Riding Hood baskets. Um, a lot of these challenges are not exactly even like amazing race levels of like sweeping giant challenges through the place. A lot of that is because they can't, due to the fact that they're have to hide kind of what the destination is. So a lot of them end up being sort of almost like backyard games, and this one is a classic case of you've got a basket with a thing in it. You have to tell the truth or lie and then trade what you've got. Um, there are 8 baskets, 3 bad poison apples, 2 baskets with the magic mirrors, which are going to be the power, and 3 baskets that just have cookies. Personally, I think if I was playing this game, I would just go for the cookies. I would just hope that I had a cookie, hope that I kept a cookie. Who doesn't want cookies? And then you don't have a target on your back for having a mirror. So
Yeah, but I think if you get a mirror, you could potentially save yourself from being a
yeah,
person who falls victim to a person with a mirror. You know, it's like because you
that's
get the
true.
mirror, you have the power to now put somebody else in, and I don't think they got any type of immunity. But if you got a mirror and you throw me in, I'm gonna throw you in with your mirror. So I think that it kind of gives you like an implicit immunity, kind of where it's like, all right, go for the cookies, and you're just a sitting duck.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess that's true. Yeah, it's kind of sort of the protection against the power. That's kind of the
Mm-hmm.
most important thing there.
Mary, have you been keeping up with the snake on Fox?
I have not.
Our home network, back from where we covered Extracted. Well, listen, the snake did this challenge, the same exact challenge, except it was a little different. There wasn't 3 options, there was only 2. It was either you
Mhm.
have nothing in your box, or well, you did like, oh no, there actually technically was 3 options. So you could have nothing in your box at all. You could have a medallion, a snake medallion, meaning that you would have power in the game. You would be kind of like the HOH for the week.
Okay.
Or you could have a snake. An actual large snake is in your box. The majority of the people had a large snake in their box. Matter of fact, I lied. There was only 2 options. It was large snake or snake medallion. And so people were reaching in looking for a snake medallion and grabbing a snake. There's this one guy, he was so afraid of grabbing a snake that he reached in and touched nothing because his hand never really touched the bottom of the box. So when he took his hand out, everybody saw the relief on his face and like, oh, thought obviously he didn't have a snake in there. He has a snake medallion.
Oh
And
my
then we get a
gosh.
confessional from him saying, I was so relieved because obviously I didn't feel a snake. So I knew I had the medallion. The entire time they show like a x-ray of the box and his hand just grazes over the head of this huge snake. It's crazy.
So, okay, so they couldn't see what was in their box. They had to
They
like
couldn't
blind
see. They
reach
had to
in. Oh, that's
blindly reach in.
terrifying.
Yeah. And so that's how we're doing things over on the snake. Catch that on the We Know Reality TV feed with me and Jenny.
Oh my goodness. Okay, well, I will have to check out at the very least that competition. I'm
First
not
one.
like that afraid of snakes personally. I mean, I don't thrill at the idea of sticking my hand into a snake box, but I would not be like crying and screaming like I think a lot of
Mm.
people would. Uh that's great. Um I don't even understand why in this challenge they didn't have real apples. So
Yeah.
they had like little
There were
sparkly
poison apples,
fake
you know?
apples. I feel like the poison apple is the green apple. Like, go with the, like, real lime greeny apple. I feel like that would
Wait,
be
was the
really good.
Snow White poison apple even green though? I think it was red, right?
This is probably one of those, Mandela effect things. Hold on. Snow White
Was it like it was like
poison.
red but like laced in like a green goo or something
Oh,
like that?
that's
She
what it
like
looks
dipped
like in
it?
the pictures. Yeah, she, like, dips it, and so I think it does look red. Okay, here's my problem is that I just watched Pirates of the Caribbean, and they use a
Mhm.
green apple in that a lot, and he's like, "Ooh, and the apple is the one that comes next." Except, like, in a
Oh.
in a British pirate voice, not whatever voice I just did. Um,
Mhm.
yeah, so I think it's like the whole like, like a bad guy's like always eating an apple and it's like a
Uh-huh.
green apple.
Yeah.
I
See,
don't
I
know.
think Snow White doesn't eat the apple if it's green. I think she's like, "What? Granny Smith, really?" So yeah, I don't know. This was interesting because I wanted to see how these people approach the game, and I thought we
Yes.
got some interesting choices. I wasn't stunned by anything, but this is our exit for Kim, and I just want to say she played the hell out of this round. I wasn't
I think she
expecting this
did.
from her.
Yeah, she did well, and honestly, she did a good job of getting someone to take her basket. Because the problem is, you're kind of doing two things. You need to both read what other people are doing so that you know what basket to take, and you also need to convince someone to take yours. And
Hmm.
so Kim says that her basket contains a poison apple and then chooses to keep it, hoping that someone will be dumb enough to take hers, which is what happens. And then Rick will take her basket. The problem is that Rick had previously taken Allie's basket, and then so Kim ends up with Allie's basket. So she played part of it right to get rid of her apple, but she didn't factor in the fact that then she could also end up with someone else's.
Who could have thought that Rick would have had all three red apples? He had an apple.
That's a good point.
Allie switches him an apple, and then he switches for Kim, who had an apple. The man never stood a chance. But yeah, she double bluffed him because when she said, "Okay, I have the apple," and then she said, "I want to keep my apple," my thought is, "Oh, you lost your mind." Like why would you like what's going to happen if you get the poison apple? Why would you keep it? But she just knew if I keep this, somebody's going to think that me,
Mm-hmm.
of all people, I'm bluffing and that they're going to want it. And Rick was the guy. It was a good move on her behalf. It doesn't pay off for her at all because Rick does have a poison apple, but I thought that it was a crazy risk to take, and I don't think anybody but Kim could have pulled that off.
So there's a game that's called Cockroach Poker, and it's basically this. You have cards and you're trying to get in certain ones and get rid of other ones, and the whole game is just bluffing. You just pass a
Mm-hmm.
card to another person and you say, here's a cockroach or here's a beetle or whatever, and they have to decide whether or not what you've told them is
Mm-hmm.
right. And at the point where someone calls someone out and flips it over, we find out who's been lying and who's been telling the truth. And it's kind of similar to this because the idea here is like if you had a bad thing and you say you have a bad thing and then you decide to keep it, someone has to decide, did they say it and did they keep it because it's not what it is or because it is what it is? And it works both ways. Like, do you think if you want someone to take your item, is it better to say that you have a good item or better to say you have a bad item?
See, for me, I'm never doing this double bluff that Kim did anyway because there's still the third option, right? Is that you could have a cookie or because like
Mhm.
the only reason somebody will want to take mine if they think I have power. If I have cookies, then what's the difference of taking mine? Like you could go after somebody with cookies, who's talking about having a cookie, with somebody who's talking about having a mirror, but to actively go out and like assume that of the three things I'm lying about having the worst one. Like I feel it's so bold. It's such a bold move where it's like if I'm Rick and I'm like, okay, I have an apple. I don't want my apple. There are three people saying they have cookies and two people saying they have mirrors. I'm gonna pick one of them because one of
Mhm.
them could be lying and have a cookie instead of a mirror. One could have a mirror instead of a cookie. But Kim is basically saying, I am poisoned, maybe. And I don't
But
like
if
that.
you
I
had
don't
a
like that.
mirror, isn't that what you want to do too? If you have a mirror, you want to say, I have a poison apple?
Yeah, yeah, I guess so. But like at the same time, like if you had cookies, would you say you had a poison apple?
I don't know.
See, I don't
Maybe,
think so.
maybe because see, my game was the problem is I'm so darn hungry right now, and all I want is actual cookies. That I'm just like the best case scenario is to end up
It's
with
the
the cookies.
cookies. The
That's what I
cookies.
feel like. Yeah, it's very interesting, and of course, much like playing hide and seek on Survivor, we're gonna get some commentary by people being like, "Oh, now I got to see who lied or who did." Come on, everyone should lie, everyone should bluff, and then that's the one thing I don't need is like Janae and whoever else was like, "See, I told the truth the whole time," and it's like, yeah, because you had a good thing.
Because you had a good
Like
stuff.
it's
You had the
easy to
good
tell the
stuff.
truth when you have a good thing.
I mean, well,
Anyway,
if you have a good thing and you're like, I have a mirror, that would incentivize someone to try to take your mirror. Wouldn't that be a point where you lie and
if
say like, oh no, I have a
especially
poison
if you're
apple?
Janae, and I think, oh, Janae's a truth teller, yeah.
Yeah, but what this ends up doing is kind of proving Peter's point earlier, even though it's annoying. Now I'm remembering why Peter annoyed me on the traders. It's because he's kind of like a know-it-all in a way. Not to say that there's anything wrong with being right, but Peter gonna make sure you understand that he's right. And so he's like, "See, exactly. There's no morals in this game. People lie because it's a game." Like, yes, Peter, we get it. Now, to be fair, they called him out. He did not offer that information up, but I know he couldn't wait to explain it to them. Like, it's a game. You're withholding information. You're lying information. It doesn't matter. There's no moral compass when it comes to the rules of the game. The rules of the game say you can do all those things, so you're not breaking any rules by doing them. You're not a better person because you didn't lie in Destination X.
Yeah. Yeah. And like any of these social strategy games, don't come on a game show and then act like it is somehow better to not lie. No,
Yeah.
you don't need to, because people are conflating things. And here's where I'm with Peter, though. It's a game. Say, like,
a game.
especially this game. If you're not in a showmance, you don't. It doesn't matter. Do whatever you want with these people.
Yeah, you don't owe these people anything. Like, even Allie says it. I'm loyal to the people I'm loyal to because I know them. I don't know
Right.
you, Peter and Janae, so I don't have an issue lying with you. And to that I say, that's what Peter's saying. It's okay. You can lie. That's fine. But don't just randomly plant your flag on morality anytime somebody else wants you to lie. It's like, hey, you mind not telling this information? No, how dare you tell me that I shouldn't share that information? I'm gonna go back and tell them that you said that crazy thing. It's like, hey, just say you want to tell on me. Don't say that it makes you like you're better or worse because of it,
Right. Yeah, exactly. So we get Rick, Kim, and Allie. They end up with the apples. They're going to the map room. And then in terms of the mirrors, Mac and Janae, they both said they had a mirror. They had one. They kept it. Nobody swapped. It was really all the apple people swapping. That was really the only thing. And I think that probably also tells you something, is that if you have something bad, you're going to be more determined to want to get rid of it.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah.
And make some sort of maneuvers to have that happen.
I'm surprised they didn't target Shane. He's like, I have cookies. I'm like, okay, Shane,
I'm
give them
surprised
to
that
me.
nobody targeted Biggie, mostly because Biggie is the one who just keeps winning these challenges. And so I would be like, I just want Biggie to not have power.
Right, for once, that I don't know. This just feels like again, Kim
Biggie
barely
and Shane
has
both had cookies and they both just kept theirs. So
they knew nobody was going to bother them. I mean, I don't know. They're pretty good socially. Like, say what you want about Shane, and they said a lot about him. They didn't call this boy stupid at least 5 different ways throughout this episode. But socially, he's pretty locked in with a lot of people.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Mac and Janae are going to win. They go watch a video of Heidi Klum. And Janae really helps out Mac here. She's like, "Oh, Heidi Klum, she's from Germany." And Mac is like, "Is she? Okay."
Yeah, she's from Munich specifically. And I was like,
yeah,
Janae?
I wasn't sure whether or not Janae told Mac that she's from Munich or just said that to us, but Janae definitely tells Peter that Heidi is from Munich. So they both win the power to send someone else to the map room. It seems like they couldn't not use this power. It seemed like we needed to have 5 people go to the map room, so that was just what was going to happen. Allie, Mac mentions that she wants some of the threats to go, so she sends Peter to the map room, and then Janae says out loud that she doesn't want to be on Biggie's bad side, so she sends Shane, which I thought was funny. Transparency here.
That's honestly, it's again, it's I guess a credit to Biggie, right? To where people are openly being like, nah, you seem like you're pretty locked in. I don't want to go against you. Now, Janae saying that out loud is a choice for sure. Because I think you could have sold this a little bit better, or something like that. Been like, I really would like to work with Biggie in the future or something like that. Try to build a bridge as opposed to being like, I'm terrified of you.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe be like, oh, I just feel like I've had a good connection with Biggie. So I'm sorry, Shane. Whatever. Allie uses the clues that her allies told her about where the train was going and just kind of picks one along that route. Shane's going to end up doing the same thing. Kim, I don't know why. Kim gets like, oh, it's definitely about Oktoberfest, so I'm going to go with Frankfurt. Really, Kim just being out of the loop here. But also, much like me, I would have like, okay, yes, Oktoberfest.
Germany.
Is there a city called Oktoberfest? No.
Right.
Okay, so I don't know. There. The problem is in Busch Gardens, there's an area just called Oktoberfest, and it doesn't say anywhere that has to do with Munich. So I'm gonna keep my eyes peeled next time I go to Busch
I was gonna
Gardens
say,
and
next
see.
time you go, the first thing you're gonna see is a sign that says Munich. You're gonna go,
Probably,
oh,
probably going to be like, ah, shoot, that's what it is.
there
Yeah.
it is. Yeah.
Um, Peter just kind of guesses on the southwest border, and then Kim is out because she guesses the farthest away there. Frankfurt, which what did he say? It was like 150 miles away or something like that, like
Mm-hmm.
decently far away. And yeah, so Munich, home of Oktoberfest. This is my issue, and I mentioned this last time with the whole clue situation. Because this happened when they were in the desert and we had the paintings by Dali and the paintings by Van Gogh. And I was saying,
Mm-hmm.
you have both. To me, a red herring is not, here are two things, one is right and one is pointing to the right place and one is pointing to the wrong. I need to then be able to figure out which one is right and which one is wrong by some deductive reasoning. Otherwise, to me, it's not really a red herring, it's just a collection of clues. And so in this one, like when they would go to the fairy tale place and be like, here's a bunch of fairy tale stuff and also Oktoberfest stuff. From that, I get, great. Which one am I supposed to be leaning towards? And I don't know which one it is, because they both appear to be valid clues that are pointing to places here. So unless there's a connection, I would think that there would have to be a specific Munich connection to the Brothers Grimm. Otherwise, how am I supposed to get Munich if I'm just supposed to randomly pick the Oktoberfest stuff and know that? I don't know.
Yeah, it's
That's
like
my
the
problem.
Oktoberfest. Like I guess it's like it is the flagship thing for Munich. So I guess like if you're like anybody aside from the two of us heard Oktoberfest and was like, oh, Munich,
Yeah,
duh.
maybe
It's
that's
yeah, and we're like, it's Germany,
Germany.
somewhere in there. Yeah, and so these other clues kind of just like in a weird way validate that it's Germany, but don't validate which city it's in for us because we're just not familiar with where Oktoberfest is held.
I
But
think
like I
that's our
said,
problem.
I had three options: Hamburg, Frankfurt, and Munich. And once I heard them say we're going through Frankfurt, I was like, well, I'm just going to go with Munich because I feel like if it's Hamburg, you could kind of guess what clues we would be getting if it was
Right.
Hamburg. And so, yeah, that's how I landed here. And I guess I got lucky, but it's just so funny to me that like the one little clue that she needed was just like it wasn't there, and she just didn't have the allies to get her that. And they didn't really lean on anything to me that was super concrete. Like the Heidi Klum thing should be, I guess, fairly obvious, but like you said, she's not even from Munich. So I
Yeah, so
don't know if it was just like we just need a German lady.
I don't know. That's a thing that I cannot figure out. There must be a Heidi Klum Munich connection that I just don't know. She was not born there. I can tell you that from a quick Google search. Maybe she lived there. Maybe she has ties with there. I don't know. Also, Kim getting just like instantly pushed into like, all right, go and here's a beer, go enjoy Oktoberfest. I do think was probably the best send off we've had so far of anyone. I do wish though that Jeffrey Dean Morgan had at least pretended that he was going to attend Oktoberfest with her.
Yeah, that like y'all said, that's kind of the coolest thing about Jeffrey Dean Morgan is always like he's like, hey guys, let's go hang out after. I'm like, thank you God, like that would make this completely worth it. Like the entire game, if I can then go have a beer with Jeffrey Dean Morgan, I'm signing up.
Mm-hmm.
Now I
Yeah.
did Google Heidi Klum and Munich, and apparently she's like big into like the soccer team, the Bayern Munich. Like there's a lot of pictures of her
So
on the
she's got a
soccer field.
Munich connection.
Yeah, I think it's like maybe like she might not have been born there, but she's definitely like a Munich girly for sure. I think maybe her boyfriend plays for them as well, or I'm seeing a lot of pictures of her like a guy like kissing her wearing the like uniform. So yeah, maybe there's like again, if you're tapped into what Heidi Klum has going on, this was probably fairly easy for you.
Yeah. And
her husband. Yeah, I think her
Oh,
husband is a big fan of
okay.
the team or a former player or something like that.
Okay, so that does help. That gives me something. I will say, at least from all of these clues, I knew we were not in Berlin. So I at least know enough of Germany to like. I know that Germany's very big and very different. The areas are very different. To me, those like seem like a big swath of like similar types of clues that could lead to Frankfurt or Stuttgart or Munich, and that's kind of where everyone picked. I also like wanted to call out the end of the episode where Peter and Allie and Shane kind of all have it out, and I do feel like this is definitely going to have next episode be a firm like line in the sand, alliance on one side, alliance on the other. They've been flirting a little bit with it, like, oh, we know that the alliance are out there, and now it's like, no, it's a game we're on. We've all lied. Let's say what it is.
Shane really thought he had Peter. He's like, oh, well, Mr. Moral Compass over there. And Peter's like, what do you mean? He's like, well, you told my girlfriend to turn on. He's like, that's not what I said. I said that there's no morals in this game. Well, the line is drawn in the sand, good sir. I was like, all right. Okay, fine.
Yeah, it is funny watching Shane do that because I don't know. Has Shane won a challenge yet? We'll see.
No, you know? Well, no, but listen, he's Mr. Charisma. Shane is literally getting by off of like his energy and everybody like really like latching on to him. This is who I would be in the game, except less charismatic because I have nothing to offer as far as like the travel stuff. But like, at least Chappelle's kind of funny, you know. It's like sometimes we laugh at him, you know. He says something dumb every now and then. He's still yelling about hamburger, you know. And so I don't know. Maybe that's where it is. So I can't knock him, but yeah, when the clues get harder, if he ever loses any of these allies, I'd be very concerned about Shane in like a final, you know, round or something like that. I don't think he would do so well.
Chappelle, I mean this as an utmost compliment. I feel like you kind of have the most synergy with like Kim. You're there for the jokes, you know. I think you'd have more alliances, but I could see you running off being like, oh great, you put me in Oktoberfest, thank you for this beer, see you later.
I'm definitely getting left behind, right? When the train is taking off, they're like, Chappelle, we're leaving, we're going to Destination X again. I was like, oh, I didn't get voted out. No, well, just give me 20 minutes, you know. I just need to run inside this pub real quick. No, yeah. I like to travel, like I said, but I like to have a good time. So a lot of my travel is not sightseeing and memorizing where these big cities and these landmarks are. But you asked me about some of the dive bars and pubs I've been to, and I could tell some stories. So yeah, I think me and Kim could get along great.
Perfect. Well, looking at our map of where we've been so far, from Rome to Geneva, Switzerland, Paris, France, Amsterdam, the Netherlands, Munich, Germany. Any thoughts on where we're going next?
Oh, hell. Let me look at this. Now I really sound like him. Okay. So
we're close to Czechia. We're close to Austria.
Man, in my mind, we're going to Germany. Well, they mentioned Budapest in this episode. It was one of the clues that they had for like the, I think it was like the Grand Budapest Hotel came up on the train. And so, and some of the clues I think we've gone to the places that they've named, right?
And we know they're going to Austria at some point. We know that's going to happen.
Okay. Well, it would be crazy for them to go right past Austria. I mean, we're right here knocking on the door, right?
That's true. We shot so much further. I remember last episode thinking, oh, maybe Munich. No, Munich is way too far away. Just kidding. Let's go to Berlin. So I don't know. We could be going to Prague.
I don't think they should go to Prague. No disrespect to Prague, but like we're hitting some of the hot spots. I'm not thinking of like, you know, Prague. Budapest though sounds like fun. Yeah, I don't know. What do you think they could go like to the beach? Could we go to like Croatia or something like that? What are we doing?
That would also be really fun. Yeah, the question is how much backtracking are we gonna do? You know, but we've got several more episodes. They also mentioned Poland this episode,
right? And that's the thing too. So we have to find locations that like have like noticeable cities, right? So like that's the thing. Amsterdam, Paris, Munich, Geneva, Rome. These are big, like important cities. And me and you, of course, have, as we've outlined, we are naming countries. It's like now, if they were to go to Hungary, they could go to Budapest.
I'm sticking with my first gut. I think we're going to Prague, and I think we're going to go to Prague, and then I think we're going to circle back down to Austria afterward. I think it's too obvious to go straight to Austria right now. I mean,
if we were to go to Austria, where are we going?
I don't know. I don't know any cities in Austria.
Right. And I'm looking at the map and definitely couldn't be like, obviously we're going to go to, is that Vienna?
Yeah, Vienna. So there's Vienna.
Vienna came up in this episode as well. They did the Blue Danube waltz, and that was a Viennese waltz. And so, yeah, maybe Vienna is on the
Are you
horizon.
leaning more Vienna or Budapest?
I just don't think they're going straight to Vienna. It's right there. It's like right across the street.
Yeah.
But you know they're going to Austria. How do we know they're going to Austria?
It was in like one of the preseason like montages.
Oh, okay. I I don't want to go with Budapest because I just don't think it's going. We're gonna go through Austria to get to Budapest and then come back.
Maybe.
No, let's go to Prague. Let's lock it in.
You're going to Prague too? Okay. All
Yeah,
right.
let's go to Prague.
All right, we're going to Prague, and then we'll see what happens.
Because to me, it makes more sense to go up and then down to Austria
Yes.
as opposed to through Austria and then back to Austria.
And it's very possible that we just come next episode and they're going right to Vienna. And it was like, oh, yeah, it actually was just the easiest solution.
Yeah, well, Vienna's right there. If we go to Austria right now, then that's it. But like, at least we'll know which city to think about because I think the only city that I would know is Vienna.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, sometimes there's a couple times where it's like, oh, the country and the city, yeah, same information. Once we found that out, there were a lot of places we could have gone in Germany. So, I don't think that I would have guessed Munich, but hopefully I would have been smart enough to be on an alliance that I would not have gotten this one wrong. So
yeah. Vienna, the capital of Austria. I can imagine the clues now. We get those waltzes, we get the sausage. That's it. Those are my only
waltzes and sausage. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Maybe Arnold Schwarzenegger, was he from Austria as well, I think.
Sure. Yeah.
Terminator.
The thing I'm learning is that I know a lot of like movies and books that are set in places, but I do not know a lot of people who are from like what countries and cities of origin some celebrities are from. That is what I do not know. So
okay. Yeah. I don't know. I can't think of any other like any movies or books that are. I can't think of any movies or books that were set in Austria off the top of my head. So
sorry, I was trying to remove the map, but I kicked Chappelle for the podcast.
I just like repeated this and it's like, okay, I'm fine. But yeah, so I don't know what else they would do. Amadeus.
Yeah. There's that. So
that's that.
We'll find out. But it's a journey. We're all going on it. Thank you so much, Chappelle, for coming on and chatting with me this week. Excited to talk to Kim. And tell the people where else they can find you. Snake, obviously.
The Snake, obviously. Yeah. Thank you so much, Desti Nation, for letting me join y'all. This has been so much fun. Can't wait to hear what your interview with Kim sounds like. Catch me talking about The Snake with Jenny Autumn. We are 4 episodes into that. We have our exit interview with the most recent eliminated contestant as well, and so you can check that out. But tune in every week. It's a great time. It's a very interesting show. Mary, I think you'd like it. But it's also like the characters, I will say, are bigger than the strategy right now, and I feel like there's probably some really good strategy in there, but the characters are really carrying the show. So check that out, and then check me out on my podcast, Recap Kickback, where I'm talking about whatever I want to talk about. Which this week and for the next few foreseeable weeks, Chantel and I have been doing a series on Flavor of Love season 1. She's never seen it. She's completely unspoiled. Wow. She does not know what's coming, and that is crazy to me. So last week we got to talk about how one of the contestants claims that she looks like Beyonce, and New York was aghast. This week we will talk about somebody's raw chicken that was made in a microwave, and so and served to Flavor Flav's mom of all people. So check that out if you want to see Mary's reaction. You cannot wait to see Chantel's reaction to all of these moments and more. Check that out on recapkickback.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Chappelle. And of course, everyone, if you want to find me, you can follow me at Frail Mary everywhere, and myself and Evie and Asia. I'm now officially the one random non-former Survivor contestant on the panel who will be covering the Ultimatum Queer Love Season 2. So we just had our Why You Should Watch episode, and we'll be releasing our premiere episode recap this week. So definitely check that out as well. All right, everyone. Until next time.
This is RHAP. We know reality TV.